Cool.
Just a couple notes on Zoom and all of our Zoom tools. So today you can use the chat function. So if you move your mouse until the toolbar appears in the bottom of the Zoom application, you'll see all of your tools, and you can select the chat, so you can chat with us at any time. You can also add any of your poll answers on the chat if you want to elaborate, and we'll share any of the links that are mentioned today in the chat as well. We also will have a Q&A portion of today's event, which will be at the end of the event, but we ask that you send your questions in the Q&A, and we'll be answering those throughout the event. Our panel will also be answering questions live, and if we don't happen to get to your questions on today's call, we'll follow up with an email shortly after. And we will be sending an email to everybody who's registered for today's event in the next few days, and it'll have those same links and resources and link to the presentation for anybody who is unable to attend or wants to take another look. So once again, thank you so much for joining us today. And if you have any questions, pop them in the Q&A. If you want to chat, send them to us in the chat. And so with that, we'll go ahead and kick it off. I'll hand it over to Trayvon.
All right. Thank you, Megan, for that, and nice instructions there. Everybody, my name is Trayvon Scott. Right there in the middle left photo right there. I'm an energy advisor for Puget Sound Energy, part of the product development team. We have our co-hosts, Kathy and Tom Saxton, with us today. They are some longtime EV owners, and so they'll be able to tune in on us and give us some nice descriptions. And then I have my lovely partner in crime, Miss Melissa Troy. She's a great individual. I love working with her, so she's great. And she's going to kick us off with a little safety moment, which is something we like to do here.
Awesome. So part of PSC putting its safety for its employees and its community and customers first, that's why we actually do a safety moment as part of any presentation or meeting that's got more than a couple of attendees. And since we've got lots of people on this call, we thought we'd go ahead and include a safety moment this time around. So as we're headed into fall, some of the things to take into consideration is making sure to check your tire tread and your pressure, because rainy surfaces can increase your stopping time. Additionally, with the time change this weekend, accidents are more likely to happen. It's actually well known that on time change days that there's just more accidents around. People have a tendency to not be able to stop as quickly and sometimes can get into more car accidents. Leaves can cause all sorts of damage and problems because they can contribute to slick roads, as well as potholes and pavement markings, or even block like the drainage so that there's puddles around. And just a fun fact is that you're 3 times more likely to hit an animal, especially a deer, in November than any other time of the year. So make sure to keep your headlights on and keep your eyes on the road at all times. A couple more safety tips that are included there is that you can get your tire checks for free at any kind of tire company. Most of them will be able to do that in just a few minutes for you. And because we are headed into our winter months, make sure that you've got that emergency kit for both your home and your car. This is a great time to check those expiration dates as well, because even water can expire in those kits. Back to you, Trayvon.
Yeah, it's amazing. Expiring water, nobody wants to have any of that. Speaking of emergency preparedness, since you guys are all attending today, you guys will be entered into a chance to win some free deluxe 3-day preparedness kits. Brought to you by PSC. Is going to be some nice supplies in there, bandages, prep pads, wipes, stints and stunts and all that for you. So you will be entered randomly to win that, and that will be announced after the event today. Also, for participating today, you will be entered into a chance to win a nice electric bike. That will be announced in the end of December. So stay tuned for that. You know, everybody would love to get a chance to become an EV owner. That would be a nice, good little starting point for that. So stay tuned, participate, and get you guys some nice stuff. So for being here, we'd like to start it off with a little game that we got here. Ask a couple questions.
Awesome. We're going to spin the wheel. Yeah, there's going to be a couple questions that'll pop up on here. Go ahead and take it away. Okay, perfect. So let's see what kind of questions that we've got coming up. So EV batteries, true or false? Electric vehicle drivers will likely need to pay to replace the battery at some point. True or false? Tom, do you want to take this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think EV batteries tend to last longer or as long as the useful life of the vehicle. So I think that's actually most likely to be false.
Excellent. All right, let's spin again.
Please.
Perfect. So what percentage of emissions in Washington state come from transportation? Is it A, 20%, B, 33%, C, 43%, or D, a whopping 75%?
That's a tough one right there.
Does anyone want to answer that? Yeah?
Yeah. Let's see what you guys think. But
Perfect.
I personally think it's C. Ooh, there we go. Look at that.
And it right. Yep, definitely was C. So 43% of emissions in Washington state come from transportation. That is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So we also wanted to give everyone in the audience a quick chance to answer our poll. You know, why are you considering buying an electric vehicle? We know that they're better for the environment, that they can have less noise. They oftentimes have less maintenance, as well as you can save a lot of money on fuel. But what's your reason for buying into an electric vehicle? Go ahead and hit us up with your poll answer, and we'll see what everyone has to say.
Yeah.
I know that. I'm just getting it off the screen.
Definitely a bunch of great reasons to purchase some EVs. Me personally, I kind of like the cool technologies that are involved. So everybody likes them be updated with all the cool gadgets and everything. And then also, you know, saving some money is also going to be something that I like there too. Me personally.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely would choose better for the environment. That's a pretty big focus in my house. So, Tom, Kathy, why did you guys consider buying an electric vehicle?
At first, because of the environmental reasons, but then after we had some experience in the EV, it was the better driving experience that really got us committed to driving electric.
You don't realize what a pain going to the gas station is until you don't have to do it anymore.
I bet. Don't
True,
have to stand out there in the
especially
rain
with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. So here's all of our answers. It looks like most of the audience is interested in being better for the environment. So it looks like I win that poll, Trevon. But we also looked at savings on fuel, cool technology, and better driving experience in state and federal incentives. So awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks so much for answering our poll, guys.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so with that, you know, EVs are always going to be a smart choice, you know, just as we kind of mentioned there, it's going to be better for the environment. And also there's also a growing population. So currently there's over 60,000 EVs in Washington alone. And that's just just good to be a part of that big wave there. And you're also going to be saving money on your average commuting. So going about 60 miles in your average model of a combustion gas engine, you're going to be spending almost $8 just to go 60 miles. And having that electric battery and that electric vehicle, you're going to be spending just about $1.20 to go that same 60 miles. So that alone right there, cutting down significantly, more than half. And then even with the cost of maintenance, you're not having to pay for oil, no fluids, no radiator fees or anything like that. So the maintenance is less work, essentially. People like to work smarter and not harder. So, Tom, Kathy, is there anything that you could tune in on there for like a personal experience from going from your guys' gas car to your EV?
We were a little distracted looking at questions. So we had a couple of questions talking about, one talking about asking about charging at home, and we're going to get to that real soon. And another is about battery life and whether it was affected by use or only time. And it's mostly use, but time is a small factor with most of today's current battery technology. As far as our experience owning cars, the EVs have just turned out to be a better ride overall. They're smoother, they're more responsive, they go better in snow and on surfaces that maybe don't get a good grip, because you can start out very gradually with having such good torque right from the get-go. You don't have to wait for an engine to spin up.
Plus all the amazing acceleration. It's like being launched off an aircraft carrier.
Everybody wants to have that get up and go. That's why we call ourselves that. Get up and go electric. So yes, with that instant torque, you're really going to get that nice zoom that you're looking for while driving. So speaking of zooming, I was told that our man Tom here has been a little bit of zoom man himself. Would you care to kind of explain some of your little experiences? Because I believe we were told that that's you speeding off in that Roadster there in the middle.
Yeah, so that's a Tesla Roadster that we got that in 2009, and that was an electric drag racing event at Portland International Raceways, and that is in fact me in the driver's seat. That was very fun to get to really open it up and see how fast it could go on a quarter mile, and the answer was about 100 miles an hour and just a little under 13 seconds for the quarter mile. So pretty zippy car. That was a lot of fun.
Wow. That's fast. That's real fast. 0 to 100 real quick. Okay, let's see here. What about that picture to the left there?
Yeah, so that was also in 2009. And we got a group of the local Tesla Roadster owners together, and we did a group drive to the visitor center at the Wild Horse Wind Farm, and
In Ellensburg.
In Ellensburg, and the Puget Sound Energy folks were kind enough to arrange for us to be able to charge there at the visitor station. So it was a great time and fun to see how wind energy can be used to power your ride.
Nice. Seems like you guys are always on the move there, traveling all the way from, the west side to the east side, going down to Portland and everything in Oregon. Would you guys be able to tell us one of your guys' furthest EV trips, like how far you guys actually drove for a trip?
Yeah, so we've driven to Vancouver Island. We've driven to the Bay Area, down to Monterey in California. And that was in the old days before there was much charging infrastructure. And more recently, we've used the network of fast charging stations to do very convenient road trips to Utah and Arizona.
Oh, nice.
So I'm really excited to hear about this yurt.
Yeah, that's the photo in the upper right. That yurt is on Vancouver Island. That was a trip we did back in the early days also. And that was kind of fun because we are actually charging there. You can't see on the little photo, but we are actually plugged into just a regular 120 volt outlet charging the car. We arranged that with the people that ran the site ahead of time, and that was fun. At one point, about 40 miles before this, we passed a gas station with huge signs warning people that there was no gas west of there and they had to fuel up. And we just didn't care because we can charge anywhere. Anywhere there's an outlet, we can refuel.
Wow. That's nice right there. Shoot, that even adds to the whole wanting to switch to EVs because, if there's no gas station, what are you going to do? And we try to get electricity just about anywhere in Washington, or just in general, because everybody wants to be able to plug in just about for anything there. Can you guys would you care to explain our bottom picture here? I see that we have a big EV stamp on that. I want to say it's a Toyota right there.
It is. It's a Toyota RAV4 electric version. It was manufactured in the late 90s and early 2000s. That's a 2002 model year. It was made only for the California market. And in fact, we didn't even know about it, even though we'd been hoping to buy an electric vehicle in that time. We found out about them in 2007. We watched Who Killed the Electric Car and managed to find one on eBay in 2008, which is when we got that one. It's great. It's held up really well. It's had about 100-mile range, which turns out to do just about all of our daily driving. So that's our first electric vehicle, and it's one that we still have today. We still use it.
Nice. Still going strong there. Would you happen to have any hidden tips or secrets that you use when selecting your guys' EV models at all?
No, I think the thing is you want to make sure that the vehicle fits how you drive, which these days with electric vehicles, I think the average range of the vehicles available in Washington is over 250 miles. So that's all you need for your local driving. And then if you want to take it on road trips, there's now a couple of networks of fast charging stations. So I think probably my biggest tip is that for an electric vehicle to be convenient, you need to have a good place for your daily charging. So if you've got an outlet near where you park overnight, or if you can charge at work, then that'll take care of you. But if you don't have easy access to charging for overnight or during your workday, then owning an electric vehicle is going to be a lot less convenient. So
it looks like we have a question from Shannon in the audience. She wanted to know, how long does it take to charge an EV when traveling on a trip like Washington to California? And I know that you've had some experience with that in the past. Would you like to give kind of an answer to that?
Yeah, so it depends on exactly the vehicle you're talking about. But like for us, we have a Model X that has a range of about 300 miles. And that means we can drive over 200 miles between charges. And so that's about 3 hours. And at that point, we want to brake anyway. And so we'll stop at a fast charging station. And that'll typically take us maybe a half an hour or so to get enough charge to make it to the next charging station. And so that gives us a chance to hit the restroom, stretch our legs, have a little snack. And so that's a pretty pleasant road trip experience. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely. Are there any other kind of fun facts that you would love to give about driving an EV that you might want to share with the audience?
Well, I'll just say that an electric motor is much more suited to powering a vehicle than a gas engine is. There's a whole bunch of problems that just go away, like being able to do a slow, smooth start when you're on a slick surface like snow or ice, or being able to move from a stop going up a steep electric hill. That's much easier to do in an electric car than a gas car because the motor won't stall. It has full torque even when you're starting from zero. So another thing is when you're accelerating a classic vehicle on the freeway, that acceleration is instant. You don't have to wait while the transmission, either the manual or the automatic transmission, changes to the right gear to be able to accelerate. So just the driving experience is so much better in an electric car.
And I know we've gotten a couple of questions about driving in the snow. We have driven both the X and actually even the Roadster in the snow. You would think that a crazy rear-wheel drive sports car with big slick racing tires on it would do terribly, but it actually did amazingly well because of the great torque curve of an electric motor and also the giving credit to the engineers at Tesla. That car has amazing analysis of what it's doing and how to react to if one of the tires starts to slip a little, it can react to that. It's a very impressive feat of engineering.
Yeah.
Nice. Seems like the cars are fully capable of everything. Since you guys have, been dabbling into the Tesla realm there, how do you guys like the autonomous features, if you guys have that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you can crawl on the back and have it drive you home. You have to pay attention all the time. But it really takes away sort of the tedious part of driving. It has adaptive cruise control, so you set it at the speed you want, and then if there's a car ahead of you that's going slower, it just automatically slows down for that, and then it'll speed back up. And then it'll also keep you in your lane, which means that while you're driving on a road trip, you're more relaxed because you're not constantly, fiddling with the gas pedal and the steering wheel. And you can also watch the vehicles around you, watch what's going on ahead of you on the road, because your full attention is what's, the traffic on the road, and less on making sure that you're not going too fast and staying in your lane. So, I find that it makes a long road trip much easier. In August, I drove to back and forth to Utah, and long driving days, driving 800 miles in a day, and I felt much better at the end of that than I have when I've done similar drives in a gas car.
Nice. Nice. It's just the overall kind of relaxing feel there, and just no fatigue, I imagine, on some of those long hauls. I feel like we've all had our fair share of those, because I used to go to Central Washington, and I know that drive is not the best all the time. Let's see here. We move on to the next.
All right. Looks like we're going to do a poll. So for the audience, how likely is your next car purchase going to be an electric vehicle? Is it very likely, somewhat likely, not likely, or undecided? So kind of we're wanting to see kind of what everyone has to say, if it's something that you're kind of interested in right away, or if you're hoping to see maybe a new model that piques your interest in the coming year. So go ahead and just give us your answer, and then we'll see what everyone has to say.
Yes. I know I'm excited for some of the new models coming out, me being a Mustang lover. And so they finally kind of released the concept model and everything, just waiting for it to drop. So that's where my heart is set on.
Always a Mustang guy. So
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so it looks like we have actually quite a few people that are very likely they're in the midst of shopping now, and somewhat likely if they see something they like, hopefully that there's some new models coming out that pique your interest. And then we've got a couple of people who are not likely or undecided. Hopefully we can help share some knowledge with you today that gives you some more information and preps you for the potential buying of an EV.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then with that, there's a whole bunch of new models that are coming out here. So at least about 30 new models are going to be expected to drop by the end of 2020. With that, there's going to be a wide range of them. So pickup trucks is one of the highest selling vehicles across the nation. So that's going to be upping up into the marketplace there for you. It's going to be at least 5 new models, and within the next 2 years. And there's also going to be popular automakers like Ford, Mercedes, Volkswagen's also a common classic. And then as you can see right there, that they're bringing back the classic Volkswagen bus, and there's going to be a little slideshow here. A bunch of different models. Mustangs listed in there, my personal favorite. The new Tesla Roadster, the Mercedes-Benz EQC. There's also going to be a few starter-ups that are in there. They're not a large major like Ford or Mercedes or anything like that, but there is called Bollinger B1. It's a startup that's based out in Michigan, so it's kind of local or national at least. And so there's that model. There's Rivian, which is one that is starting up from America as well. They're going to be producing a nice truck. And Landstrom Motors is also something that's going to be coming up with a pickup truck for us here. And then the infamous Hummer is also making a return from the grave there, because nobody's seen those for a very long time, and being a large gas guzzler, and nobody really liked the gas mileage on those things. So they're making a comeback on the EV side. So they're looking to stir up some noise in that market coming up. And so out of some of those.
All right. So,
oh no,
sorry,
my bad. You're
I
good.
wanted to ask, what upcoming EV would you be most likely to take for a spin? So if you could head to a dealership and try out one of these cars, or if there's a car that you are the most interested in, let us know what that car is in the chat. But we were curious if the Mercedes, the Ford, the VW, or the Mustang, or even the new Rivian kind of piques your interest and makes you want to take a look at EVs a little bit harder. So this will give us a chance to kind of get that information. And then, of course, also just pop it into the chat if there's a different vehicle that you're the most excited about.
Mm-hmm. I believe seeing some Volvo models coming out.
Oh, yeah. I'm actually really excited about the Mini Cooper as well. I think that's been a car that I've loved for a long time, and I'm excited to see it come out in the EV version.
Mm-hmm. Classical.
So fun fact about the Kia Niro that Jeanette just mentioned is that pretty soon, it'll be potentially in the next month or two, we're actually going to launch a virtual ride and drive with the new Kia Niro. So stay tuned for that. We're really excited to be able to offer that as well.
Yes, indeed. All right, see what we got.
Well, it looks like everyone is excited about the VW ID4. I am as well. I actually got to talk to a dealership recently, and it looks like they're going to have those models available towards the end of December for people to start taking a peek at in the dealership. So we've also got some other people excited in the Mustang, just like Trevon,
Yes.
and then that F-150 electric, as well as the Mercedes-Benz. So looks like people are just generally excited about the new EVs that are coming out, which we are as well. So
yeah.
Thanks everyone for taking that poll.
Yeah, thank you. Some good information there. So
lastly, we're going to go ahead and start answering those questions. Please feel free to send any additional questions to electricvehicle@psc.com. Or if we don't get to the questions today, then you're going to be able to get some of those answered later. You can also learn more and sign up at the Up and Go Electric newsletter at psc.com/electriccars. Both of those links will be available in the chat. And one of the fun features that we have on our psc.com/electric car page is our calculator. So this is actually going to help you understand a little bit more about how much you could save depending upon the miles that you plan on driving, and give you a little bit more of a budget-friendly information to work with, and really start to understand how much you can save by going to EV. So we'll start doing some of those questions. We're going to turn it over to our PSC event team to roll those questions out to the group.
Yeah.
Yeah, our first question was about battery life. Is battery life affected only by use, or is time a limiting factor?
So for that, it's mostly use, and with today's batteries, shelf life, the time, does matter a little bit. There have been studies by Plug-in America where they've surveyed car owners, EV owners, about the batteries. Tom can speak a little more to that.
Yeah, at least this far, it's not clear that age has a big effect, that it's mostly usage. And most EVs that are made now come with a warranty that's, maybe 8 years and 100 or 150,000 miles. So at least for that period, that's not a concern.
Thanks for that question, Daniel. Our next question is from Stacia. She wondered, can somebody talk about what she needs in her home in order to charge an EV? Could she just use a standard plug?
Yeah, so pretty much every EV that's sold today will come with a cord that will let you charge from an ordinary outlet. And that will get you, say, maybe 40 miles of range overnight. So if your average driving per day is 40 miles or less, then you can just charge your car with a regular 120 volt outlet. If you've got a longer commute, then you'll want to get a 240 volt charging station. So those will cost you a few $100s for the station, and then the install cost can vary. I think maybe $500 to $1,000, and that'll let you charge if you have a longer commute overnight.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you have a short commute, but you want to do road trips, if your vehicle has longer range, then you can sort of dip into that. So if you have a vehicle with a 200-mile range, your usual commute's only 30 days, but now you want to go over the pass and you need to drive for 100 miles. You can drive that, and when you get back, you're just not at full. You don't need to be fully charged every morning. It's not like going to the gas station where it's a big pain, so you want to get full so you don't have to do it again. You can just get home. Maybe your car only has 100 miles left. You do your usual commute the next day, and then you charge up overnight, and you just do that kind of gradually, and you get back up to full. Charging vehicles is a lot different than going to the gas station. It's more like your cell phone, where it doesn't always have to be completely full.
Great. On that topic, I know we talked a little bit about snow and getting to the mountains. So there is a couple questions about when there would be a car that could take somebody up to go skiing, or how does the car handle in the snow? So maybe you could elaborate on that a little bit for Isabel and Amy.
Yeah, so obviously the way the car handles is going to vary for the vehicle, but the electric motor has much smoother and precise control of torque, so it's a lot easier to get started when you're on a slick surface. And so, yeah, performance of an electric car driving in the snow compared to a similar gas car, the electric car will be better just because of the better control. And so, yeah, it's, with any other vehicle, you want to have good winter tires and you want to have clearance, but yeah, plenty of people take their electric vehicles up skiing around here. So yeah, that's not a problem.
Great. Now, I know you showed us your old RAV4 from, I think, 2008. Have you needed to replace a battery yet?
We have not. It's actually a 2002 model year. We got it in 2008, so it's 18 years old at this point, but it's a slightly different battery technology. It uses nickel metal hydride batteries, and today's modern cars use lithium-ion batteries. And so there's just a different profile to how those batteries do. We've been very fortunate that our RAV4 has, in fact, kept its range pretty well throughout the years that we've owned it. One thing of interest is for new EV owners, you'll see as we're approaching winter, if you've got an EV over the summer and this is your first winter, you will notice that your range actually goes down a little in the winter. I'm not sure exactly why that is. Colder air is a little bit denser. Wind resistance definitely matters. You'll notice that working on the freeway, driving on the freeway, especially very quickly, eats up your battery a little bit faster, range a little bit faster. And so you'll see different changes based on climate, going up hills, going on the freeway. But anyway, if you're a new EV owner and you notice that you're not getting quite as far on your battery's getting to a lower state of charge with your usual drive in the winter, don't worry, it'll come back in spring once the weather gets warmer again. We've noticed that with each of our vehicles.
And really, it's the same thing in a gas car where your gas mileage goes down in cold, wet, rainy weather.
On that same topic of charging, what is the charging time for 120 volts? And is it different for newer vehicles? Do newer vehicles charge faster?
So your charge rate is going to vary a little bit. It's mostly with the weight of the vehicle. So a bigger, heavy vehicle, same way it needs more gas, it needs a little more electricity. But charging from just a regular household outlet, you'll get, say, 30 to 40 miles of range charging overnight for 10 hours. So yeah, that'll vary a little bit from vehicle to vehicle, but yeah, that's about how much you'll get out of that. And I don't think it's really much different with the newer vehicles. You know, I think, yeah, so we have a 2011 Leaf and we have a Model X, and the Model X gets a little less range overnight than the Leaf would, but it's not a big difference. So if your commute's under that 30 or 40 miles a day, then the 120 volt charging overnight will work great for you.
We have a couple questions that are kind of wanting a comparison between the hybrid plug-in EVs and sole EV car, and kind of comparing the technology, and so wondering if you guys have any thoughts on that, Tom and Kathy.
Yeah, so, you know, a hybrid vehicle essentially has two complete drivetrains, right? It's got an electric drivetrain and a gas drivetrain. And so you lose the advantage of the lower maintenance costs of an electric vehicle because you've got to do all the maintenance, the oil changes, all that stuff on the gas part. That said, if you're a single car household and you want to be able to drive electric for your daily driving and then have a way to get longer range with the gas car, then a hybrid can be interesting. On the other hand, now that electric vehicles are, you know, that range there is over 200 miles, it's getting, you know, much easier to do road trips with a pure EV. So with that 250-mile range or more, and the fast charging networks that are going up, it's really becoming a lot easier to do a road trip. So I think the argument for a hybrid vehicle is it's not as strong as it was, you know, when we first started getting into electric vehicles 12 years ago.
The other thing that's interesting is what Tom has called the hybrid garage. So if your household has two vehicles, you can easily convert one of them to electric. That can be the one that you plan to use for your shorter commutes, and then you've still got your gas car for the longer distances. And that's essentially how we started. We had multiple cars and got the first one. It had only 100 miles of range, which seemed really short to us because our main daily driver at that point was a little two-seater Honda Insight, got 50 miles per gallon. It could go, you know, hundreds of miles before we had to think about the gas station. And then it turned out 100 miles is a lot. We don't drive anywhere near that on our usual day. We live on the east side. We need to do a trip into Seattle and go north and, you know, loop around and we, you know, meter it. And it's like, oh, we're going to drive 45 miles round trip. And so it turned out that did just about all of our driving. And we ended up neglecting our gas cars. Gas cars do not like to sit and not be driven. So we had to make a point of that Insight that I love and drove all the time. I had to make a point of making sure to drive it at least once a month so it didn't get unhappy. And then you start to get over your range anxiety. And so that's a good way to kind of get into the EVs. And so if you do have two cars, I'd recommend trying a pure EV rather than going the hybrid route.
Great. We do have some questions about Teslas, and I know you two are really EV connoisseurs, so you've had a variety of different cars. And so any thoughts on the Tesla as it compares to your other vehicles, and any thoughts on the new Tesla Model Y with the third row seat?
Yeah, so I actually haven't had a chance to drive a Model Y yet, so I can't comment on that specifically. You know, I think Tesla's doing a great job in terms of they've built a high-speed charging network that's pervasive and super reliable. And so that makes doing road trips in a Tesla vehicle super easy. They've got onboard navigation where you just say, I want to drive from here to Salt Lake City, and it'll show you, you know, where you want to stop to get charged and how long you'll have to stop at each one, and they make it easy to plan, to get food. They'll tell you what restaurants are around each station. So it's very nice in that regard. And I think they're also doing a good job with the driving assistance features. That said, there's, as we talked about earlier, there's like 30 models of vehicles coming in. There's the Electrify America fast charging network that works for all of those vehicles. So, I think there's a wide variety of choices out there. And, I would encourage everyone to test drive a few vehicles before they, make a big buying decision like that.
We have some questions on the topic of buying about a lease versus purchasing, and wondered if you guys had thoughts on that.
I'm not sure exactly what the question is.
Oh, whether it's smarter to lease at this point or to buy.
Oh, yeah. Lease versus buy. That's complicated, and that's going to vary with the vehicle and your financial situation. And yeah, that's a hard question to answer in a general way.
Okay.
But I know people were talking about wanting to lease early on because they were worried about batteries. And, if you're leasing something, then you're not committed to it after your lease is up in 3 or 5 years. And so if the battery starts being kind of unreliable, it's not your problem. And I don't think that's an issue these days. I think a lot of the issue of why people wanted to lease early on for that reason isn't valid. But sometimes different manufacturers offer different incentives for that. Some people like getting a new car every 3 years. The RAV that we've had for 18 years. We've had a Leaf that's now 9 years old. So we tend to hold our cars for longer. And so for our personal choice, we tend to purchase. But for people that like having the excitement of a new car or want the newest, latest, and greatest technology, leasing is a good way to do that. So as Tom said, very much an individual choice, but neither is a clear-cut win.
Yep.
And a question from Isabel: if you were to purchase an EV today, what are some of the things that you would look for?
Yeah, so I would make sure that the range fits my driving habit, which I think that's pretty much, they all do these days. I would look at the charging network that supports that vehicle, especially if you're interested in driving it on longer road trips. And then I would make sure you have a nearby dealership to handle any maintenance issues. So I think, in that regard, it's not really a lot different than buying a gas car. And there's so much aesthetics to it too. I mean, people will do the analysis of exactly how much money they're going to save, blah, blah, and then they'll just go out and test drive a few cars, and then they'll pick the one that feels the best for them. So yeah, I mean, you can do the math and do the sort of objective analysis, but a lot of it's subjective in terms of, what kind of vehicle you feel comfortable driving.
And a lot of them have new technology, like we were talking about the adaptive cruise control that's in Teslas. So yeah, and that's going to vary a lot based on manufacturer. So that's kind of one of those things where we can't even list all of the things to look for, because tomorrow a manufacturer may come out with a cool new feature. So I would say take a look at the vehicles that seem to suit your needs as far as aesthetics. Somebody asked why EVs are all so ugly. That's, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And sometimes the ugliness is because it makes it more aerodynamic. But whatever, pick a vehicle you like, get the look of, that seems to meet your needs as far as if you need an all-wheel drive to go skiing, what your price range is. Go test drive some of them and find out what features are available. And then see, is that adaptive cruise control a feature that you care about? And kind of work from there and build your own list.
And, Nissan has those same driving assistance features in their vehicles. And a lot of gas cars have those features too. So you'll see those varying across different EV models.
Great. Well, we are out of time. Thank you so much for all the wonderful questions, and Tom and Kathy for being here and answering all of them and sharing your knowledge. We will get to your questions in a follow-up email if we haven't answered them live here today. But thank you, everybody, for joining us today. This was a wonderful opportunity to share how fun EVs can be, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye. We'll see you next
Bye,
time.
all.
Bye.